true freshman wide receivers. Just how are they coming along? If one or two of those guys needed to step up in a big game, how confident are you in those guys?
They're doing well. I think that I think as of late they're gaining more and more momentum. They need to step up. Yeah, I think their continual growth. I think the biggest thing with those guys is just really seeing the guys around them that they're surrounded by, and continue to buy in and continue to improve. That's definitely happening. I think a couple guys are really starting to kind of come out of that group, in my opinion. So that being said, there's a lot of football left, and what they do over the next 2 months will be critical for them going into next spring. And I have a pretty good feel about where they're at and where they're going. I think they're starting to, sharpen their teeth a little bit on special teams, and that's been important. Always has been here. So for them to continue to do that, I think that'll be a good starting point for them.
Brian, you always knew there was going to be a development process with Julian, and then it hit a bunch of setbacks along the way. How close is he to what you think he can become, and how far has he already come?
Yeah, Julian has done a great job, as you guys have seen. So, I think that he's got to continue to progress. I think, the one thing he'd probably say is he's gotten so much better, but there's a difference between getting better in the practice field and then taking that to the game and applying it to the game, and then the amount of reps you get on game day, just that body of work builds. And so, once you get to a point where you can do it, then the conversation becomes how often. And I think that he's continuing to grow in that facet. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. You guys all see it. But the more and more opportunities he gets, and the more plays he makes, the more momentum he's going to continue to build. And he's only scratching the surface. What he's capable of, I'm not even sure I know what he's capable of, because he's so athletic. He works so hard. And there's really not much he can't do. He's got to continue to stay healthy. He's doing a great job with that. But I think the sky's the limit for him.
Thank you, Jerry. You don't coach this guy on a day-to-day basis, but you help coordinate the plays, the design, the passing scheme, et cetera. How much of a surprise or just whatever you want to call it of Cade Stover's rise this year from in June when you're thinking about, can this guy even be that, game breaker kind of tight end to what we saw on Saturday, for example, another great example of him catching the ball. And
yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I think Cade's doing a phenomenal job. I mean, where he was last spring to where he is now, that whole tight end room, frankly, is taking a huge step, not just Cade. So, but what he's brought to our offense, has been so critical. I'm not so sure, again, not that the whole room's taking a step, but, Cade's been a huge part of that. And we probably wouldn't be where we are right now if it wasn't for Cade and how much he's grown. And a lot of credit to that, that room and Coach Wilson. And so, he's developed into a great player. I think he'll tell you he's still got a long ways to go. But some big plays on Saturday. He's made big plays all year, and he's got to continue to ascend if we want to get to where we want to get to.
Third row left, Griffin, Strom, 11 Warriors. Yeah, Brian, how much attention have you been able to pay to Sam Wiglis, a big season for Ohio, and how proud are you of a guy like that who obviously you've helped so much?
Yeah, Wiggy's killing it, and I don't know if he's still tied for the MAC touchdowns. I think he was, but I wouldn't say we're too shocked here. I mean, we gave him raving reviews when he was trying to figure out his next steps and what we could get done here, and unfortunately it didn't work out here. But we always knew what he was and what he was capable of, and I'm just glad he's having a blast. Obviously, we talk probably every couple of weeks or so, but social media gives you that platform where you feel like you talk like every day. But no, he's killing it. We all love Sammy. We all follow each other. His family's great, so can't be more happy for him.
What kind of stood out about his game and repertoire, while you had him here on campus?
What stood out? I mean, probably, I can give you all the normal responses if you want, but lunch pail guy, deceptively fast, No, I think that he was a good route runner. He really was. He was very consistent, always did his job. And that's the thing what's amazing about football is, it's a team sport. And when you say that, you don't always need extraordinary, ability to be a huge part of an offense. And I think those that are the most consistent and those that, just do their job consistently over time with great efficiency, end up being great players. And I think Sam embodied that. And when he left, we definitely felt his loss, but we root for him from afar for sure.
Right in front of Griffin, Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach. I want to ask, you guys had 60 plays on offense this past week, and it looks like more times than not you're going with your lead three quite a bit. And I know Xavier got in there for a few extra plays, maybe it seemed like than maybe he normally plays. How important is it to develop a fourth and fifth guy if you take into account you don't know if you're ever going to have Jackson or when that may happen? Just, is there too much of the top three guys? Is that a diminishing return maybe if those guys have too big of a load?
I would say that the development happens more during the week than it does on Saturdays, in my opinion. But that being said, I think it's really important to have multiple guys being available, and I think that we have that. And I think that for Jaden Ballard to step in, for Xavier Johnson to step in when roles are needed, it's really critical. Just as it's important for Cade Stover and G. Scott in the tight end room to step in. In the slot or inside as well. So we do a lot of things throughout the week, not necessarily maybe on Saturdays, but I'd say the ammunition and what we have, availability to us is being built throughout the week.
You have to go to 4 and 5. Xavier made the play against Notre Dame, so that's kind of endemic, but you feel pretty comfortable with those guys?
Oh, I feel great with those guys, and I think that we'll continue to move forward how we're operating now, and as the scheme allows, we'll move guys around and whatnot. But we have a bunch of guys that do a lot of really good things, and I think we're on a good track right now.
Right next door, Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
You lost 2 first-rounders last year, and then Jackson he came in as the best receiver in the country, and you've had him for 60 snaps. And Marvin and Emeka have made that look kind of irrelevant that you lost that much production. I know you're not going to sit here and praise him because that's not the type of guy. But what have you liked and what have you not liked about the way those two have stepped up into these roles and emerged the way they have?
I think it's a lot to like. I would say that they hold themselves to a standard that's higher than we probably try to hold them to. And for them, they would probably tell you that they expected nothing different. And a lot of the reasons why they're where they're at is because probably that expectation. And I think it's not an unrealistic expectation. It's an earned expectation. I think they've proven to themselves over time through practice to their peers that the way they're playing now reflects how they practice and how they work along with Julian. So, I'd say that, it's a lot of credit to the room and the guys that choose the room and the guys that develop and push each other and the success they're having is, carrying the torch that Chris and Garrett then carried from the guys before them. So not to shrug it off or not highlight it, but, that's kind of the expectation and standard we've developed, they've developed, and they're just trying to carry the torch.
That you haven't liked at least first?
I would say no, you love it all. You're always finding ways to improve, and believe it or not, there's a lot of ways to improve. But to say you don't like it, that's not really the take I would have. I was just things we have to improve on, and then like we said with Julian, it's you've done it now. Now, how often? And when the big moments come, are you going to do it then? And so we're always not tricking ourselves, but convincing ourselves that's that moment right now, and we're trying to replicate that in practice.
Brian, did you pull a hamstring on that run chasing?
No, believe it or not, I got a slight cramp, but no, I was good.
Well, speaking of hamstrings, how is Jackson doing? Not just physically, but mentally. I know how much he wants to be out there.
Yeah, he's beating himself up a little bit. He's been better this week. I'll say that. I think I could echo what he's saying on if he was here standing in front. He wants to play in the worst way, and he's frustrated. That being said, he's done a great job not being a distraction and picking the guys up and staying locked in and FaceTiming before the game on Saturday. Like all those things have been awesome. And but I know as a competitor he's frustrated and he wants to get back. But I think overall, he's doing okay.
Level of confidence he'll be back by, let's say, when it really matters.
Huge level of confidence.
Second on the right, Bill Landis, Rivals.
Brian, on a couple of the conversions that Marvin had on those slants, it looked like he and CJ kind of adjusted the route depending on the leverage of the corner. How much work goes into
a quarterback and receiver being able to trust each other on those kind of plays, especially, you're trying to convert 4th and 7 or you're trying to convert 3rd and 10 in the fourth quarter. Like, those are big moments.
I think trust is just the body of work. It's not necessarily, this particular route. I mean, they spend a lot of time doing things, but I guess, my point of view would just be the overall trust. And then to be able to communicate that on the sideline, lock eyes, understand you're good, yeah, I'm good, then you execute. And I think that they've done a great job with that. I mean, they're pros, and that's sometimes that's just things you can teach it, but that's just earned, and not only earned from themselves but us. I mean, it's just everything. There's so much that goes into that. But that being said, those are some great plays by two great players, and having that is probably important to getting to where we want to get to.
5th row right, Spencer Holbrook.
Letterman row.
Latterman row.
There you go.
Brian, you played in the NFL for a long time. You played it here with a guy who played for the Colts in the NFL. When you watch Marv work the way he does in this building, do you see that level of work ethic and approach that it takes to get to that level? Because it seems like, to us, we keep asking about his work ethic, and it seems very professional, but you were the one who actually did it. Do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, just call it what it is. It's beyond professional. I mean, there's a lot of professionals that never worked like him, and frankly, there's a lot of guys in our room that works better than pros do. I mean, that's just is what it is. But I think that the goal isn't always just getting there. It's staying there and playing for a long time, and everything these guys embody are giving themselves the best chance. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, there's levels to goals, and I think our guys across the board have different levels to goals than we even talk about. I mean, the NFL, is awesome and all, but they're first focused on their team. They're first focused on making the play when it shows up. Then maybe it's the NFL, and then it's lasting in the NFL for a long time. So the pro comparison is good, but these guys have overachieved that from a work ethic standpoint. So that's, in my mind, nominal.
You had Chris for young guys to watch for a long time. Now you go to Marv for these young guys to watch. I know that you put in the work to help these guys get better, but to have a guy like Chris and then transition immediately to a guy like Marvin for the younger players to watch work, how advantageous is that for you?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, for a coach to just be able to, to point to his peer, and it's one thing to talk about things sometimes, whether it be, technically or, culturally, but to be able to directly show it in person is nothing like anything else. So, like I said, whether it's running a route or whether it's how you handle your business, there's lots of examples, great examples throughout this building, and we're blessed with that. I think that probably the skill for a coach is just identifying that and then correctly communicating that to the other individual. But it's all through this building.
Deep right, Jeremy Birmingham, Rivals.
Brian, I know you recruit to the culture of that room, and that's obviously part of what you look for on the trail. But in your time here, what is a normal amount of time for a player to get it? And does that just vary by the person, or is there generally something that happens where you see someone say, okay, now I understand?
Definitely by the person, but and it's not just here. I would say it's probably everywhere. I think that the expectations have continually been sped up. How would Terry McLaurin have fit into that expectation this day and age? I don't even know. Or Paris Campbell, or guys that are very vastly successful now, but maybe weren't by some standards, especially in this room right now, of where they're supposed to be by their end of their freshman year. Or like, oh, we're not seeing the freshmen playing as that like what? I literally see you guys write that. So that's mind blowing to me. So I would say it's definitely by person. Like we talk all the time, right? There's goals and there's paths, and everyone shares goals and probably never shares paths. So Curtis Samuel's path is not Terry McLaurin's, but they were roommates. But I think that it is indicative of the individual. I think Jaden Ballard's doing a great job, but on his own path. Then maybe a Mech and Marv that were in the same class. JB is doing a great job, and so is Marvin Mech, but just different. And not right, not wrong, but I think to answer your question more decisively, probably, you see that you turn the corner probably into their second year, more consistently towards the end of their freshman year. You kind of see it, whether it shows up on Saturday or not. You don't know. But I would say into the second year, your second spring. You kind of see some plays being made and things happening, and you're like, okay, we have a good future here.
Vocal leaders, because that room traditionally in the last handful of years with guys like Chris and now Marvin and Emeka and Julian are not really generally vocal as far as we see them on the.
So that's actually the opposite. Chris was not vocal. Good show of example for sure. I mean, but Julian's been very vocal and he's killing it. And I think Mech's grown in that department. Definitely not Marvin's cup of tea, but but they all do it in their own way. And I think again, there's examples everywhere, and it's just up to the coaches and the peers and to see the examples and again communicate them effectively to who needs it. And because we're surrounded by it all over this building.
Couple more. Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Brian, obviously with Jackson out, it kind of amplifies the importance of you guys getting Julian back healthy. How have you seen him grow since he got back in that Toledo game?
Yeah, I think, it's a combination of continual confidence, reaffirming what he knows he's capable of. I mean, everyone always thinks as an athlete you're capable of something until you're able to do it. And when those mesh, that's when you kind of see the trajectory kind of start to take off. So that's helped him. I think being able to just operate healthy, I mean, that's, I'm sure you guys play some golf. Go out there and swing a club when your back's sore. These guys out here playing football, against some of the best players in the country. And we expect them, to feel great and play great, but, things hurt. So, he's doing a great job with that, making huge plays, maximizing opportunities. I don't know if anyone's done it better, and so, yeah, I mean, I think the future is bright, and everyone in this room kind of sees that, and he's been a huge part of what we've done so far this year.
And final question, front row, right, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Brian, the receivers here, none of them really dropped very many passes, and I'm sure that's very fundamental for a receiver, but I think the stats show that maybe they've dropped 5 all year, which is, again, really low. What are the factors that go into that? How much is that emphasized? How much is that taught? Is that just innate ability? Just curious what kind of leads to that.
I think it's a lot of credit to the way we practice, and not just as receivers, but as a team. We have such a heightened importance on each snap. It best reflects a game, and I think that it's not always the ability on Saturday to make plays. It's just being able to train in that environment so that when you're in there on Saturday, it feels the same as practice, right? I mean, that's the age-old trick, making every rep so important that if I can convince myself, this is the rep that wins the game, how would my approach be to that rep? Well, if you have that approach in the game, good outcome, right? So it's just that constant mental, exercise. I think we do a good job of it. I think the coaches do a good job of it. I think the players do a great job of it. So when they're getting reps in practice, there really are game reps, and we say that a lot. There's mental reps, there's physical, there's game reps. I think we do a really good job of doing that, and plus, I mean, as receivers, they've done a great job, spending extra time. I mean, you guys would be shocked on who was probably you wouldn't be shocked, but hey, where's the light key? After the game at Penn State, because we had a drop. He's out here catching balls for 2 hours. Those are the kind of things these guys are doing that you guys don't see. That just speaks to how they operate and the level they hold themselves to. Yeah, the lights have to get turned on with a key, or you can't see in the indoor. So,
Hey, Brian,
guys are I'm getting texts. I'm sitting by my fire pit. Hey, where's the key at? I'm like, what do you mean the key at? Go home. And they're so they're catching jugs.
Brian, can I ask you one quickie? You've been around a lot of quarterbacks in your playing career and even at Ohio State since you've been back and stuff. CJ, I don't know, I'm not going to rate these guys, but describe his calmness or whatever you want to call it when the games have been on the line in these second halves of games.
Yep.
Utah, Notre Dame, what stands out about that from your vantage point?
Yeah, his calm definitely provides a lot of confidence that you're kind of alluding to. And it's definitely been a growth spot from where he was when he first started, which anyone would, but he has. Some guys just don't. He has, and the guys feel it. He keeps it calm. Lots of confidence coming from him. I would say that. I wouldn't say I'm not the quarterback coach, but you can just feel that maturity and growth on the sideline that I know everyone feels and alludes to more from the O-line. Hey, you're good. And to the receivers, I mean, that's been pretty critical and very palpable when you're on the sideline as a coach and as a player. So what you're hitting on is definitely pretty special from CJ's growth. Yeah.
The accuracy of throwing the football
Oh,
in
yeah.
those moments. I mean, that's what it finally comes down to, right?
Yep. I mean, yeah. I mean, when your number's called, you make the play and keeps making the play. So it's good.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.